Don't trust nobody. In Hollywood specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
This is what I look for. When I see a success, I'm looking for anything
to say that they didn't do it on their own?
Detain it.
The brewing feud between Jay-Z and 50 Cent has reached a critical juncture, with tensions escalating to unprecedented levels. Industry sources confirm that the long-rumored documentary project 50 Cent has been developing is nearing completion. A comprehensive streaming-ready exposé that weaves together years of allegations, personal vendettas, and behind-the-scenes revelations spanning decades of hip-hop history. The stakes have dramatically intensified with reports that Jay-Z is mobilizing legal resources not merely to respond to the documentary's release, but to prevent its distribution altogether. This preemptive legal strategy represents a significant escalation, moving beyond typical damage control to outright suppression attempts. This confrontation has evolved far beyond personal animosity into something much more consequential: a battle for narrative dominance within hip-hop's historical record. The very urgency of Jay-Z's reported legal intervention raises compelling questions about what revelations might be contained within 50 Cent's project that would warrant such an aggressive response. The conflict now centers on who gets to shape the definitive story of one of music's most influential eras, with both artists seemingly prepared for a high-stakes war over truth, reputation, and legacy in hip-hop culture.
The documentary, I think a lot of people thought that he was just joking around. It turns out he's not, so this is actually a real project that's being made under his G-Unit movie.
Industry insiders suggest that 50 Cent's documentary project has undergone a significant shift in focus. What began as an investigation into Diddy's current legal troubles has reportedly pivoted toward Jay-Z, driven by multiple factors including the ongoing Rymere paternity case, the complex history between 50 Cent and Jay-Z, and new information allegedly discovered during production. Sources within the entertainment industry indicate that the documentary may extend beyond the Rymere situation. According to a veteran industry insider, several additional individuals claiming familial connections to Jay-Z have reportedly come forward and expressed willingness to participate in filmed interviews. Unlike typical anonymous sources, these individuals are said to be prepared to speak openly and on camera. Should these interviews make it into the final production, they could potentially challenge Jay-Z's public persona as a dedicated family man. The documentary appears positioned to explore themes of concealed relationships and undisclosed connections, exactly the type of revelatory content that streaming platforms often promote as compelling viewing.
He took them to some apartment building, and you know, they did what they did in there, you know, talked a little bit, had a good time, party, and I guess had, you know, I can't fully talk as my mom because I'm not my mom. I'm just telling you guys what she told me. It was just, and I honestly just believe it. You know, it's just no doubt.
There's long been a quiet whisper network about settlements, discreet, calculated, and precise. People close to the matter say Jay-Z's team has spent years moving fast to neutralize claims before they ever saw daylight. Payments, NDAs, sealed court files, a deliberate shadow operation designed to contain potential damage. For years, those rumors never gained real traction. But now, 50 Cent has the budget, the legal muscle, and the platform to put them on screen, one after another, backed by court documents and eyewitness accounts. Just imagining that montage is enough to keep any crisis management consultant up at night. The timing makes it worse. Jay-Z is already under renewed legal pressure from Rye's push for a paternity test, a fight that's been stalled, redirected, and shut down in court since the early 2010s. We've read the filings, seen the allegations that his attorneys misstated property ownership to dodge jurisdiction, and watched the case ping-pong between states until the statute of limitations became a shield. His public stance has been silence or outright dismissal, but the optics? Brutal. Add to that his name appearing alongside Diddy's in a lawsuit describing a disturbing after-party incident from 2000, and it's clear why even a hint of another scandal, aired on a major streaming platform, would be seen as a 5-alarm threat.
So that's just competitive energy.
Competitiveness.
All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him
Okay,
like that.
damn. All right, I didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
Then. All right, okay.
The complex relationship between Jay-Z and 50 Cent injects additional intensity into this unfolding drama. Their shared history spans decades of professional intersection, collaborative tracks, joint performances, and periodic conflicts, yet their connection has always remained strategically distant. 50 Cent has been characteristically blunt about the nature of their relationship, describing it as purely transactional rather than personal. However, recent months have witnessed a notable shift in 50 Cent's approach. His commentary has become increasingly targeted and relentless, with particular focus on Jay-Z's mounting legal challenges. Social media posts, many later deleted, have mocked everything from red carpet moments to speculation about how ongoing controversies might impact major events like the Super Bowl halftime show. This pattern represents a calculated escalation beyond his typical provocative social media presence. What we're witnessing appears to be a methodical campaign of psychological pressure, each public jab serving as a warning shot in an increasingly personal war. The documentary now looms as the culmination of this sustained offensive. Rather than random social media antagonism, 50 Cent's recent behavior suggests a coordinated buildup to what industry insiders believe will be his most devastating blow yet, a comprehensive on-screen reckoning that could fundamentally alter how hip-hop history remembers one of its most powerful figures.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious.
The complex relationship between Jay-Z and 50 Cent injects additional intensity into this unfolding drama. Their shared history spans decades of professional intersection, collaborative tracks, joint performances, and periodic conflicts, yet their connection has always remained strategically distant. 50 Cent has been characteristically blunt about the nature of their relationship, describing it as purely transactional rather than personal. However, recent months have witnessed a notable shift in 50 Cent's approach. His commentary has become increasingly targeted and relentless, with particular focus on Jay-Z's mounting legal challenges. Social media posts, many later deleted, have mocked everything from red carpet moments to speculation about how ongoing controversies might impact major events like the Super Bowl halftime show. This pattern represents a calculated escalation beyond his typical provocative social media presence. What we're witnessing appears to be a methodical campaign of psychological pressure, each public jab serving as a warning shot in an increasingly personal war. The documentary now looms as the culmination of this sustained offensive. Rather than random social media antagonism, 50 Cent's recent behavior suggests a coordinated buildup to what industry insiders believe will be his most devastating blow yet, a comprehensive on-screen reckoning that could fundamentally alter how hip-hop history remembers one of its most powerful figures.
Jay-Z got his whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You got his ass. The feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your ass whooped.
It's impossible to ignore how this collides with Jay-Z's long-documented alliance with Diddy, a bond often framed as brotherhood, strategy, and mutual protection. They've shared stages, parties, and public toasts to billionaire status. Now, both names sit in serious legal complaints, while Diddy faces an avalanche of criminal charges. Jay-Z's silence on his brother's troubles hasn't gone unnoticed. 50 Cent has already mocked it with memes and on-air jabs, painting him as missing in action. A documentary that stitches their fortunes into one storyline could make that silence much harder to explain away. Then there's the matter of the alleged additional children, an angle that pushes the story beyond gossip. If they present consistent accounts, where they were born, who their mothers are, how contact was made or avoided, it could point toward a decades-long pattern of concealment. Even without legal proof, the emotional weight of multiple voices telling similar stories could trigger a sharp turn in public perception. And in an era where image is currency, that's a direct hit to brand value, corporate partnerships, and the myth of the untouchable mogul.
Weirdo. I don't get no what you got in your head, that Neuralink. You'll never outthink me. Ever.
According to industry sources, many of these potential participants have maintained off-the-record conversations with media outlets for years, but previously lacked the necessary legal safeguards and influential backing to go public. 50 Cent's production team has reportedly provided exactly what these individuals needed: comprehensive legal protection coupled with access to a massive audience through major streaming platforms. The documentary's power extends far beyond simply collecting testimonies. The real threat lies in its sophisticated presentation strategy. The careful curation of narrative, strategic timing, and unprecedented reach to global audiences. Industry insiders suggest the film's impact will come from its editorial approach, layering personal accounts against a backdrop of archival footage, then contrasting these revelations with Jay-Z's own recorded words and public persona over the decades. This methodical juxtaposition could create a devastating cognitive dissonance for viewers, presenting side-by-side comparisons that allow audiences to draw their own conclusions about consistency between public image and private actions. The documentary's strength wouldn't necessarily depend on any single explosive revelation, but rather on the cumulative weight of carefully orchestrated contradictions. What makes this approach particularly potent is its multimedia nature. Combining first-hand testimony with Jay-Z's own lyrical content and public statements, creating an inescapable dialogue between his curated image and the alternative narrative being presented.
This morning, rap mogul Jay-Z is denying allegations he assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include Jay-Z. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was assaulted by both men.
Legal teams are now reportedly preparing motions to block the release, creating a race against time. Every passing day increases the risk of information leaks, competing narratives, or calculated previews from 50 Cent's camp designed to maintain public interest. The harder the attempts to silence it become, the more media attention it attracts. A self-perpetuating cycle that becomes nearly impossible to stop once initiated. There's a real possibility that efforts to suppress this story could transform it into the year's most talked about entertainment controversy. The situation becomes even more volatile when considering Jay-Z's long-standing associations. For years, no relationship has been more prominent than his bond with Diddy. Their friendship, previously hailed as an example of solidarity and mutual success in the industry, now threatens to become a liability for both figures. Diddy's current legal troubles are impossible to overlook. Facing charges so numerous and serious, they resemble a collection of criminal case studies. Industry insiders suggest that 50 Cent's forthcoming documentary will establish clear connections between Diddy's downfall and the social circles Jay-Z has inhabited. The film may not need to make explicit accusations. Simply documenting the two men's shared presence at events that have since taken on troubling implications could prove damaging enough.
So why does it all come to a head now? Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
So who's next?
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup.
The notorious white parties, once shimmering symbols of glamour and influence, have become a recurring touch point in the whispers. Industry veterans have hinted for years about what went on behind those closed gates. Guests far too young for the guest list, mysterious outsiders slipping in, and security more intent on keeping prying eyes out than keeping people safe. Now, the suggestion is that Jay-Z's presence at these gatherings wasn't purely social, that his bond with Diddy may have placed him at the center of a scene now under intense scrutiny from both law enforcement and public opinion. The questions hang heavy. How deep does this go? And when those nights are re-examined under the harsh light of new testimony, who else gets pulled into the fallout?
See, there's no artist, let me be clear, there's no artist in this industry that's doing major numbers with these platforms that haven't sold their
For
songs.
decades, Jay-Z has transcended his role as a recording artist to become something far more complex, a carefully constructed symbol of entrepreneurial triumph within the music industry. His transformation into a mogul represents one of hip-hop's most meticulously crafted success narratives, woven deeply into the cultural fabric through years of strategic positioning. This kind of iconic status doesn't emerge organically. It requires relentless curation, where every public moment, from interview soundbites to social media presence, undergoes rigorous evaluation through a single lens. Does this reinforce the carefully constructed persona or threaten to undermine it? The result is a brand built on precision and intentionality. Within this framework, efforts to suppress potentially damaging narratives extend beyond conventional legal maneuvering. They represent existential protection of a psychological investment spanning decades. The stakes become intensely personal when one's entire identity has been architected around projecting strength, wisdom, and business acumen. The pressure of maintaining such an elevated position creates unique vulnerabilities. In today's media landscape, a single controversial revelation can overshadow years of accomplishments, becoming the defining story that reshapes public perception permanently. For someone occupying hip-hop's apex, this threat becomes exponentially more dangerous. The concern transcends personal embarrassment. It's about protecting a multi-billion-dollar ecosystem built on carefully maintained trust. This includes fan loyalty, corporate partnerships, and cultural authority that determines inclusion in music's historical elite. When that foundation depends on an image of infallibility, any crack in the facade threatens the entire structure.
Now, he, of course, is more than annoyed, would be an understatement.
Yeah.
He has a family and he has a lot to protect, including his brand. But to the extent that he's saying, hey, come after me criminally, that could be likely. Why do I say that? Because in New York, and what's alleged in this complaint is forcible compulsion. What that means in English is that it's saying that he held her down.
The psychology of secrecy operates on profound levels. For someone who has spent years distancing themselves from past controversies, the impulse to maintain control becomes instinctual. Each rumor represents a potential crisis, every critical narrative a possible catastrophe. Even when the underlying facts are harmless, anything that falls outside the carefully constructed public image poses a threat. Over time, these protective instincts can evolve into something more rigid, an absolute determination to prevent any unauthorized glimpse behind the facade, regardless of consequences. The human element deserves consideration as well. The private individual beneath the public persona. Sustaining a flawless public image demands constant vigilance, creating a mental state where legitimate caution can gradually shift toward paranoia. Within this mindset, blocking documentaries, suppressing accusations, and circumventing legal processes isn't merely strategic, it's existential. It stems from the conviction that maintaining sufficiently high barriers will prevent the outside world from constructing any narrative other than the officially sanctioned one.
And we may actually see one of the biggest divorces in Hollywood is because Jay-Z is up next to be exposed.
Seen through that lens, the fight over this upcoming film isn't just about allegations or isolated incidents, it's the climax of a lifetime spent guarding an identity that's been both a crown and a cage. Now, with pressure closing in from every side, legal, personal, and public, the question becomes, is this fierce protection of image a shield for buried truths, or simply the reflex of a man who knows that even a hint of imperfection could shatter the empire he's built? And then there's Beyoncé. She's crafted her own empire, disciplined, artistic, and almost impenetrable in its control. But behind closed doors, the strain on the Carter household must be immense. One industry source claims she's been working with a crisis management team, calibrating every move, every appearance, every word. Another says she's torn, loyal to her husband, yet acutely aware of the risks to her own legacy if the spiral continues. Is she urging Jay-Z to quietly settle the paternity dispute, sealing one door before another swings open? Or is she preparing to create distance, ready to safeguard her brand, even if it means putting space inside the marriage?
What I've heard about them as a couple is that they've been living separate lives for a very long time.
Industry observers have begun noting subtle fractures in what was once a seamlessly coordinated public presence. The carefully orchestrated joint appearances have become less frequent, replaced by a noticeable emphasis on individual projects and separate promotional campaigns. Their once synchronized public choreography now shows telling gaps. Fewer shared interviews, strategic solo appearances, and a shift toward independent brand positioning. Their most recent high-profile joint appearance at their daughter's film premiere was designed to project solidarity and family unity. However, the event inadvertently became a source of intense public scrutiny. Digital audiences dissected every frame of footage, analyzing body language, spatial dynamics, and micro-expressions with forensic precision. The couple's positioning, walking patterns, and moments of physical distance became subjects of viral speculation across social platforms. For two individuals who have elevated image control to an artistic discipline, these seemingly minor deviations from their established pattern carry significant weight. Their brand has been built on projecting seamless partnership both professionally and personally. Should 50 Cent's documentary incorporate Beyoncé into its narrative framework, even tangentially, the entire scope of the story transforms dramatically. The focus would expand beyond legal complications and undisclosed family dynamics to encompass something far more universally compelling: the potential dissolution of entertainment's most powerful partnership. This human element introduces a storyline with lasting power, combining legal intrigue with deeply relatable emotional stakes. The intersection of love, loyalty, and public betrayal creates the kind of narrative that sustains media attention indefinitely, because it transforms abstract legal proceedings into a story about trust and survival under extraordinary pressure.
No, this part is not alleged. Jay-Z and his team, they have been ducking and dodging, taking the DNA.
Central to everything is the persistent issue of the DNA test. Reimer's pursuit of genetic testing has stretched across more than a decade, repeatedly stalled through courtroom delays, deflected by procedural challenges, and mired in jurisdictional disputes. However, legal pressure is mounting once again, and heightened media scrutiny, intensified by this documentary, could make continued resistance increasingly difficult to defend. History shows how quickly these situations can shift. A single court ruling, one judge taking a fresh perspective, and suddenly the test becomes mandatory. For Jay-Z, the implications are staggering. One outcome could permanently resolve the matter in his favor. The alternative could expose everything he's worked to protect. A favorable result would deliver a decisive public vindication, a rare opportunity to definitively control the narrative. But an unfavorable outcome would trigger immediate devastation. Every previous denial, procedural maneuver, and legal strategy from the past decade would be reframed as an elaborate deception. The damage wouldn't be limited to personal reputation. It would threaten business ventures, endorsement deals, and the cultural authority cultivated over decades. A single test holds the power to resolve all questions. The critical issue remains: is Jay-Z prepared to accept that gamble?
I don't have no felonies. I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that, you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
Which leaves us with the question hanging over it all. If the truth surfaces, will it spell the downfall of an icon or ignite a reckoning that shakes the entire industry? Could this be the moment that forces not only Jay-Z but the entire upper tier of hip-hop's elite to confront a past they've fought to keep buried? So we'll put it to you. Is Jay-Z defending himself against lies or hiding from the truth? Drop your take in the comments, because we're watching every word. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember, in this game, nothing stays buried forever.